Hey, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tornado Tony Penny.
And it's like if Tom Paget with his crystal ball unveiled,
All right, Tom.
polished and ready to go.
I need a good
Like,
weekend.
Tom, I have a question for you for your psychic ability. Can
Sure.
you predict if American Airlines is gonna, drop their stupid pricing for this flight out to Vegas?
Just don't fight
They
Boeing.
they they got this astronomically high, and I'm not happy.
Well, I think Boeing is helping the country.
Yeah.
And you see a few more incidents coming up in the next few weeks with Boeing, and I think they'll have to take a
That's great. Oh, good.
We'll see.
I'm looking right now.
just be careful on that plane. The
Hmm.
Williams. Check the wing. Make sure the belts are there.
They say they let you board with a screwdriver now, but you might have to
Florida.
go into
And
maintenance
I'm
rooms.
going down there. I have an early morning flight. I was up really early, and I get down there, check into the airport, get my cheesesteak and egg sandwich, my fries and a beer, and then I get onto the plane at like 7 something in the morning. We go up. I'm starting to fall asleep. I hear ding, 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 and it's usually either we're hitting turbulence or you're allowed to get up and go to the bathroom or something like that. And I hear we're going back to the airport. I'm like, going back to the airport. Yeah, there was a bad smell on the plane. I'm like, it wasn't it wasn't me. Then someone's like, oh, we landed, and the guy 2 rows behind me worked in the airline industry, and he goes, you should look to leave. And they landed. Then he makes fun of everything. So I look at my Facebook statuses every year, and it's my sarcasm. So they walked us down to another terminal, and so we get down there, and they say, okay, we're going to start transporting all the bags. Okay. We need to find the pilot. Like, wasn't he on the same plane as that? And like that word for pilot is in his lounge with his very shuttle friends. Yeah, the time of the time back, we had to get another one. We had 6 hours of delayed. Now here's what's ironic about it. So we're in there. Now this is 2022. We're on the plane. You still had to wear a mask. So in the airport, and all, you still had to wear a mask. Now I had a cutoff shirt, but on the back said tornado. I had a mask with a pair of boxers. Tornado. Now you're looking at that now. Remember, when you're looking at people, you're only really seeing their eyes, their nose, and their eyes. There was one woman. It was 2 teenagers as kids. It looks familiar. Oh. And I'm like, I don't think nothing else. About a year ago, became friends with a girl that I knew from Lock Haven that took some of my flight. When I was cutting weight real bad for a flight and I couldn't walk to the dorm without assistance, she actually helped me. She literally almost carried me up to the dorm. She messaged me. She goes, Christopher, you got a clear wherever you are. I said, yeah. She said, do you want to flight to Tampa the other year where it got rerouted because of a fuel leak? I said, yeah. Because I thought that was you. I'm like, I'm wearing a mask that says Team Tornado Boxing. Wearing a shirt that says Team Tornado Boxing.
Yeah.
Um, you didn't think it was me? I'm wearing a hat with a big Italian something on it.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious who I am.
Yeah.
So so the other day when I was getting ready for the other week or two for my flight, I said, sure, I got a question for it. She goes, what? I'm flying to Tampa this weekend, are you? She's like, no. I think good because we have bad luck on the same plane.
Yeah. We don't want the wings falling off or anything. Rough out there.
Yeah, we don't want the wings falling off.
Rough out there. But glad to see
So,
you got there and back, and you got to see some baseball and some
yeah, I
big
got to see some
stars.
baseball. got to, like to sing karaoke. It was a great trip, and I write things, I enjoy doing that. And I'll write things, with in a way sarcastic sense of humor. And, I've been doing this trip, for, this was my 17th year. And after I actually flew in on a Thursday, night, and I came back to my room and drunkenly co-hosted the show with you.
Then the show drunk with
You
you.
didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing. The first thing that happened was we made the playoffs in 2015, horrible season.
I know.
And I would go to Eagles training camp every year, which was an hour from the house. I would drive every day to the local university where it was, and I'd go to training camp. And we've made it, and it was such a vibe around the city with them going to the playoffs for a long time and for a decade. But you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing the Phillies training camp. And some of those, first, it's called spring training. And second, it's in Clearwater, Florida. I said, oh. And then I decided, we did it. My parents paid for part of the trip as a Christmas gift. I go down there and the Phillies win the World Series that year. Oh, well, obviously, I was the reason. So I thought that had to be, an annual thing. They haven't won one since. Met so many people, and it started with just me in a regular baseball jersey and a baseball hat.
Yeah.
And then it moved to my Party City sequin of the fan hat, to my original velvet lined military costume, to my current military costume. And, I met with a couple of one of the Eagles there. So the Roger Clemens and the Jim Cody who plays for the Phillies. So I'll keep doing this as long as I can, as long as the good Lord allows me. Now, thankfully for tomorrow's game, in all my photos, I do always wear sunglasses, which is a good thing. Because people are going to block the black eye that
Jesus.
I have a black eye because I'm a clumsy. Black eyes I ever get are the stupidest things in the world.
Yeah.
The one that I put on Facebook every year with my shiner from 20 years ago from an allergic reaction to medication. That's a great one. It hangs in my boxing and people go, let's play with that. Well, me and whatever I took today.
Yeah.
But this one, the front of my house, this is a display deer that I jumped when the dog started running. And I was chasing her and I did the road runner move off the steps and I fell. Landed on my ankle, thought I broke it, sprained it. So this time, back and I'm working, and they left the dogs outside, and I mean, and I know she's been really good, staying on the property, but I got concerned. I couldn't see her. I didn't know her new game was to walk around the side of the house. So I am going down the same front. I am looking to my left and to my right, not in front.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss a step. And I fall. And the wind had blown over a chair the day before. And the legs were sticking up in the air. And I took a face first tumble into one of the legs. And I'm thankful that it wasn't about an inch higher and about 2 inches over, or it went right in my eye.
Ow.
And I might have lost my sight. But I took it right on my cheekbone, and I think the whole neighborhood heard every word that I said. It was blown up pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
And my one friend, I messaged her, and I said, man, what's with this club? I said, my dad fell down, tore his shoulder. I said, you fell down the steps, broke your ankle, broke your foot. I fell down the steps, rocked my face on a chair. She goes, you didn't have to fall to join the club. We'd let you in. He said, I started the club last year when I fell off the same steps. You guys joined my club.
Yeah, coincidentally, I had almost the exact same injury as a child. We were playing some game in the yard at a little tiny place in Dorchester where I grew up, and this young girl picked up a pinched metal pipe. I think it was like a something a little bit heavier than aluminum, or maybe it was a thick aluminum. But the end was pinched, and she just, I remember turning around and she's like, "You're it," and she fucking whips it at me, and it fucking went right into where the swelling always happens when a real black eye, right
Mm-hmm.
on the cheek, like literally like an inch below my eye. And it cut my eye open, so I fucking put my hand up there, and it just filled with blood. And they stopped the bleeding, and then later on, it's like I could not even see out of that eye. It was all swollen. It was worse swollen eye I've ever had. But yeah, it could have been a lot worse for loss of an eye. Ridiculous, though. Like a kid could think, "Oh, let me pick this fucking pipe up and throw it at the dude." Like, ridiculous. Yeah, it's like one of the most uh, times I've given up the most blood from my face. I haven't had a bloody nose that gave up that much blood in my whole fighting career, on and off the book. Anyway,
You know, actually, from all the fights I had, I was always a pretty easy bruiser. And even with the headgear on, my cheekbones would swell pretty regularly. And even years later, when I would go to my tattoo artist, he would always say to me, he goes, "For as tough as you are, you probably have the most sensitive skin I've ever worked on." He goes, and he told me that, he goes, "You burn like the shade of a light." So when he did my Vinny tattoo in 2015, when I first posted a picture of it, remember Vinny was a golden retriever. Coloring, it looks like on my skin is almost a reddish color. People say to me, "Yo, bro, I love the color." I said, "There's nothing. It's all me." And then with a few months later, he's doing the tornado, which he did in 3 parts. So he did all the clouds first, and the clouds, and the lightning, and all that. So those are the first two questions. She was actual. So when I took a picture at the end of the section, she was cloud and spray on it, and this bright red looking funnel. So Warren, your skin will bruise like I don't believe.
yeah. Alrighty. Well, we had some big fights last week. Um, Main events, flyweight fight. There was supposed to be, Amanda Ribas's chance to get herself on the map and get a big win, and she went to decision with Rose Namajunas and did not go very well. Now, last time I heard a fighter predict what round they're going to win in, the guy did it. And I didn't find out he predicted it until like 3 minutes before the fight. Since we're talking about it. So he predicts the round he's going to win, and I'm kicking myself. I'm like, oh, geez, that would have been an easy one if we heard that fucking 3 days before the fight. So Amanda Ribas, with her thick Brazilian accent, says third round she's going to win this fight. Everybody, everybody should pretty much think, well, maybe she's really got that focused in her head, and it's a possibility. And she actually did come close to having her best moment, at least, in the fight in round three. But couldn't close the show. But stupid me, watching the previews, I thought she said first round with her Brazilian accent. So I had a couple of $5 bets with that first round pick that she was get finished. Did not happen, and I had a brilliant bet put together with the fifth leg being under 4.5 rounds for Namajunas versus Hebas. So I would have been happy with either one of them finishing the fight in the first 4.5. Did not happen. So uh, sometimes you got to cash out, folks. That's what those things are for. When they offer you that, boom, take it. Win some, you lose some on those. Hey, to give you good enough money, could have turned $5 into $2.55. So anyway, That was my best bet last week. Did not quite pay off on the last leg, but I had every other fight. Rose did what Rose does. She just basically technically dominated the fight where she needed to. P-Boss, was just a little too basic for her. Frustrated her a little bit, because she just kept bulldozing in. And Namajunas was not out to finish this fight. I think her corner told her in the fifth round, like, don't even look for the knockout or the stoppage. I was like, shut up! But yeah, that's what happened. So that was a bad one for me. I was just shocked that she couldn't get the job finished. She fought a very safe fight, though, which I should have seen coming. I mean, she had not fought in a long time, too. She's coming off a long rest. So, it is what it is. He-Boss did not pull any kind of anything close to an upset, but, she looked decent. She definitely earned herself another UFC fight for sure. Uh, Justin Taffa came in this brotherly love, like Philadelphia, I guess, here, theme. As Justin Taffa took over the opponent his brother was supposed to face because his brother took over the opponent he was supposed to face. So Justin Taffa ended up with actually the tougher opponent somehow. Carl Williams, I think, and he just got unanimous decisions, thrown around a lot. It was mostly wrestling that saved the day for Williams grappling. Taffa was just kind of a fish out of water on the ground, but we can't really do much. And didn't. He tried to get back up a few times. He had his moments of slugging, but once somebody figures that out and just knows how to stay away from the worst punches, it's over for Taffa. That's why almost all of his knockouts are actually every one of his knockouts, I believe, are in the first round. Could be wrong, but it's pretty close to that. So you bet Justin Taffa that didn't go well. Edmund Shabazian, he was the favorite going in. He proved it. 4 minutes and 43 seconds into the first, he took out AJ Dobson. Yeah, yeah, great fight. And then Peyton Talbot, just absolutely embarrassed Cameron Simon. Blew him out of the water. TKO'd him 21 seconds into the second round. TKO. Great striking, just very accurate. Could take a punch as well. And Simon trains with, the other South African guy there, Duplessis. So Tom would say, cheap date. And Yusuf Zalal beating Billy Quarantillo. He was actually experts pick. Everybody on the experts panel said Billy was going to win that fight. One guy had him third round submission, and he ended up getting submitted in the second round by Utah. Anyway, Fernando Padilla beating Luis Pajuelo by Bravo choke submission. For that, Trey Ogden beat Kurt Holobaugh, another odds-on favorite from the experts. Did not pay off there. Julian Erosa over Ricardo Ramos by guillotine choke in the first round. That's a crazy one. Miles Johns, decision Cody Gibson. That was kind of predictable. Jarno Aarons over Steve Nguyen by unanimous decision. And Daria Jaliamanacola. No, definitely butchered that, but she took out Montserrat Rondon, who has a habit of going to decision, win or lose. And Daria could not get her knockout, but she tried a couple times. And then the bite of the night. I mean, the fight of the night. Andre Lima and Igor Da Silva. We had a Mike Tyson incident, Tony. This time it was during a grappling exchange. And yeah, I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was watching it, and the guy who was getting grappled up against the fence looked at the ref, and he starts like screaming something at the ref. And then they start separating them, and they start talking about it, and they're already talking in the announcer booth because they can hear it that they're talking about a bite. And I'm like, I don't think he bit him. That's bullshit, right? So then the guy like flexes his arm, and you can actually see the bite impression. So they call the doctor in. They look at the bite, and you know, the fucking referee immediately just doesn't no contest him, disqualifies him on the spot. So of course Dana White, doing what he does, says, "I'm going to give you a bonus. I got fucking bit bonus," we called it, and reminded me of when I worked for the newspaper and I interviewed Alice Cooper, and then I went with a guy. I went to the meeting with Alice Cooper, and a guy came in and had his tattoo of Alice Cooper signed by Alice Cooper at the radio station. And then he got the signature tattooed over at a shop I took him to the next day, and I wrote about it in the newspaper. So anyway, this kid got the bonus, and he actually tattooed the bite on his bicep. And so the bad news is Igor da Silva. I think he was going in undefeated, very promising fighter. Not only got disqualified, he got thrown out of the UFC. And I don't know. Some people, Dean Thomas said that was a bit excessive. Get it? Bit excessive. Well, they did the whole UFC post-fight show making fight jokes, but that was my favorite. It was a bit excessive. I mean, I guess if you're gonna do that, I don't care where you come from or what your record is. Yeah, the UFC is gonna say that's not in your that's right in your contracts, probably somewhere for character. You just don't act like that in the fight. Like, it'd be like somebody pulling a foul pole, Delata, and doing six low blows. They go around. Like, yeah, you're gonna get thrown out for that. There was one fighter, Paul Harris, who was thrown out of an organization or two for holding on to leg locks too long. Kusimar. Paul Harris.
With good reason
Yeah,
that he was thrown out.
yeah. So this one was different. A bite, and he clearly was like right up against the cage, real tight in with him, and clearly just chomped on his fucking bicep. It's like an underside of the bicep. That's it. You're done. And yeah, that screwed up some of my parlays. Definitely screwed up some of my. I did have it pay off like on an under bet, under because it did end and somebody won. So since it happened under 2.5 rounds, I think it was. Okay, that part of the bet paid off, but I think it was the one that I didn't cash out right. So anyway, yeah, it was not my night. There, Michael Parkin in the first fight, decisioned Muhammad Usman. Um, just tough fight, and Parkin just did enough to win there. And we've got pretty big UFC card this week. Another female fight headlining, and another just amazing on paper fight. I call it a 50-50 betting wise. I got three recommended bets uh, and a parlay to recommend. But anyway, for that we're gonna get to some news items. We haven't talked about wrestling in a long time, but I saw this article and I figured this is a good time. So that actually the this year military service academies did pretty well at the national championships. And it was kind of funny because the national championships interrupted the ESPN feed on these fights last week. But Air Force, Army, and Navy all had a place winner at the Division One championships for the first time since 2003. And of all the main academies, the top placer was Wyatt Hendrickson of Air Force. He placed third at 285 pounds. And then they had Army Cadet Ben Pasiak, eighth at 174. David Key of Navy, also eighth at 184. And then a Coast Guard kid of all academies. Coast Guard is actually one of our biggest rivals at Norwich. We usually kick their asses at football. But Coast Guard kid won the Division III championship at 133 pounds and got named the outstanding wrestler. So, Coast Guard wrestling team's nothing to mess with. Two of his teammates as well, Corey Spooner, placed sixth at 197, and Carl DeGiorgio placed third at 285. So yeah, and they did a big interview with the Air Force coach for this article on flowwrestling.org, FLO Wrestling. Pretty cool stuff. Anyway, thought I'd mention that. Big news of the week is the UFC lawsuit was settled for $335 million. We didn't get to talk about this last week. I think I knew this before the last week's show, but happened on the 13th, actually. They settled it. And it was about to go to trial. I believe in April they was set for trial. And, they were in mediation. Obviously, they were talking about settling. And, I have not really been able to spend a lot of time analyzing it, but I did hear one guy on an analysis video talking about the whole thing. He's been following it for a while, and he estimates that probably the average fighter in the payout is going to get like $100,000 out of a $336 million settlement. And it was two of the lawsuits, two different class action lawsuits that were settled. And the big thing is, it really doesn't change the way the UFC does business. And they set it up so that they don't even have to pay it all at once. I mean, it's a real dream deal for the UFC. But, the crazy thing is, there was such a max reward, but it was already 10 years that they've been fighting this, over 10 years. So, I mean, it made sense to settle, but at the same time, you had to wonder, like, what kind of a story it would have been if they had settled, didn't settle and they fought it till the very bitter end and won the case, because not only would they win, but they would get three times the damages. So we're talking billions of dollars instead of a mere 335 million. But it's, to me, dealing with the Fertitas who used to own the UFC and just the corporate way they run the casinos, it's kind of the same way the guys that took over run the UFC. It's just now seven different voices directing the thing. But that's how they do it. They solve their problems with lawyers. So I'm sure I'm sure the number probably started at 500 million. That was the least they'd take, and then the UFC probably came back and said, "Well, the highest we're going is 335." That was it. But yeah, they're probably not even going to be able to talk about it. But it's an interesting case, and it's probably not going to be the last. There might not be an antitrust case that comes next, but there could be something else, something creative that comes out of just the landmark that this case becomes. I don't know what happens to all the evidence they gather, but I'd love to just have the whole file. I never really dug into the case filings too much. Some other sites have picked up on that, but not me. I'm sick of lawyer stuff sometimes. But anyway, so that was settled. We've talked about those lawsuits over and over. It's a big deal as far as unionizing, though, because a couple of the people behind this were also behind trying to create a big time fighters union for MMA fighters, and this at least puts it behind the UFC. Remember they already merged up with WWE, so now it's a TKO as the parent company. So they solved this lawsuit under the TKO banner, and they're also kind of on the hook for all of Vince McMahon's bullshit with this.
Oh yeah.
Is crazy allegations against him of misconduct, to say the least. And that's a good segue into the next story I got. Ronda Rousey is doing a book tour and talking a lot about her MMA career. And she believed she had to hide her concussion history from the UFC and other leagues because she wouldn't be able to fight again if she wanted to. And she had left the sport after back-to-back losses by knockout to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. Now, leading up to doing her memoir tour, she said a long history of concussions suffered in her previous sport, judo, actually contributed to her decision to leave MMA. She said, a quote, "I'd like people to understand my reasons and motivations behind things. I was forced to leave fighting when I was faster, stronger, more skilled, and had a better understanding of the art than ever before. It was really a hard decision to understand, one that my body made for me." Um, she said, "I think there was just so much to that loss that I couldn't talk about in the form of an interview or article or anything like that, or there will be several filters between my words and people writing it. So much had to do with having so many concussions, and I was in judo before I even got into MMA. I couldn't talk about it at all when I was doing MMA because it would literally put a target on my head, and I might not have been allowed to compete any farther." So that brings the whole other thing. It's like the UFC has been sued already for the antitrust thing, but the one thing I've always harped on, and it still exists today, even though the Fertitas are out of it, it's always been a Dana White thing. If you want to stay in the UFC, you've got to put on a show. And I think if a really smart lawyer dove into that whole attitude that the UFC has pretty much branded itself with, I think it's negligent to expect your fighters to put themselves at risk and create these slugfests that they consider a show rather than fight a smart fight every time. Maybe it's produced better content for you, but at what expense? You know, talk about concussions. So I think that's the NFL I talked about years ago because of their concussion lawsuit. So anyway, we might see something about injuries and the risks that they promoted people taking. And remember, they got to a point where they eliminated the knockout of the night bonus they used to do because they knew that was promoting, uh, you know, trying to ruin somebody instead of fighting a smart fight. Anyway, Jose Aldo was announced as coming back to the sport of MMA. And actually, Patricio Pitbull from Bellator is trying to lure him back into boxing with an offer to fight him. So that would be an interesting crossover fight. Two MMA fighters fighting in boxing. Um, but he actually has one fight left on his UFC contract, so maybe, he just wants to fight out his contract, be done with it, so he can actually do other shit. Maybe that's why he has to come back to fight. Because I know that they've held a lot of shit over some other fighters who wanted to do stuff outside of the UFC and still had to fight over their contract left. And boy, they don't mess around with that kind of stuff. That's why that lawsuit started. But anyway, that could be on the horizon. You never know. Okay, Beterbiev and Bivol are finally going to fight.
Yeah, Jim, that's looking to be a deep arc. Some exciting looking fights on there.
That's Saudi Arabia. Riyadh is where it's going to go down. Um, and on Boxing News 24.com, we're talking about the undercard. And the rumored lineup is supposedly Deontay Wilder versus Zhilei Zhang.
That could be an interesting fight. Think about, it's got that amazing punch. And, Yang lost that fight to Joseph Parker not that long ago, but he had Parker down twice. So, it's the Parker fight right there.
Yeah, for Wilder, it's good time like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, where does the loser go?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And then Philippe Hrgovic versus Daniel Dubois. I don't know how entertaining that one will be. Raymond Ford versus Nick Ball, rumored to be on the undercard. Callum Smith versus Anthony Yard is another one.
We need a good fight.
Yeah. So there's just a handful of them. And, Bellator made a deal. It's obviously going to stay. I don't want to say business as usual because that's like a curse. The UFC did that with Strikeforce. But Bellator is making a separate deal, even though they're owned by the same people as the PFL, and they have a deal with ESPN. Bellator has made a deal with Max, the Warner Brothers Discovery streaming service. So I guess, we've got Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul on Netflix. Everything's going streaming. Crazy. Estimated sale of around 500 million. That's the first time I've actually seen that. That's how much Bellator sold for. 500 million. So they're obviously going to keep the branding going. And
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to keep the tournament format with the $1 million. Wonder if they're going to do that.
well, with the PFL for sure, but they're gonna do crossover fights just because they can. Um, they're they're definitely going to keep that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting approach. It's also good timing considering the UFC just settled that case. One of the big highlights of that early coverage was, the smoking gun was Dana White taking pictures of tombstones with the names of the other leagues that had fallen. That was the biggest evidence of a known monopoly that they had. It's just crazy. So anyway, we have some fights to talk about. Upcoming, we have the main event on this weekend. Only big MMA fight card going down, except one championship's got some fights over in Thailand. We got UFC on ESPN 54, and it's Blanchfield versus Fiorot. And Fiorot is, more of a boxer than anything, I believe. She's just, a little bit of kickboxing approach, good takedown defense, and she has not lost a fight since her pro debut. 11-1. And the crazy thing is, she's fighting a girl, Erin Blanchfield. And I did the deep dive into this one. Her only loss is to a fighter who's still mowing down people in the UFC. And that girl's only loss was her pro debut to this day. So this is somebody she's seen before, Erin Blanchfield, maybe with a little bit more experience. So it's crazy to think about when you look at it like that. This is such an evenly matched fight. I call it a 50-50. If you're going to put a bet on it and break the cardinal rule of the first video I've ever watched on UFC betting, which is you should avoid betting on the main event. I learned that lesson last week. But anyway, if you are going to bet, there's something called an alternate decision bet. They offer it on DraftKings and a lot of other services, but you can pick one way of a win on one side, on the other way for a win on the other side. So I think the safe way to go on this one is Fiorot by knockout or Blanchfield by submission, because this is a 5-rounder. And although last week went to decision, I think these two are really trying to make a statement and keep that undefeated record going. And they both have histories of knockouts and submissions. Blanchfield having a submission, Fiorot a knockout. If it goes to decision, I guess you could do either side. Like Blanchfield, you go submission or decision, Fiorot TKO or decision. But I like Fiorot, money line or knockout. Either way, I got her in a parlay I'm going to talk about later too. But then we've got a co-main event of a couple UFC veterans at welterweight, and that's just a little bit tough to pick. But I really like Luque in this one. He's got 22 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw. 19 of those wins come by stoppage, TKO or submission. So I think that's a TKO or submission bet all day. He's only lost to really, really difficult fighters. Buckley, if you're going to take a flyer on him, you go TKO or decision. Joaquin Buckley. But what do you think about those two main event and co-main event, Tom?
Well, stick.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Blanchfield, but just looking at her pictures, she looks like she's probably got shorter reach than Fiorot. And if this becomes a kickboxing match and Blanchfield can't get her takedowns and work her submissions, I think this is going to be
Kind of,
Fiorot.
kind of a style versus style.
And then Luque, she's got a chin from hell. And Buckley's got that history, back and forth, back and forth. There are a few losses. And then we've got Chris Weidman coming back again. We haven't seen him since Boston. Saw him in person.
Well, now,
And I just can't believe he's giving it another crack. That's a pun intended. That's just like my bite joke. Broken leg joke. Chris Weidman, I hope he does not take too much punishment in this one. I think he's not gonna get through the fight. Bruno Silva, talk about a guy who is heavy on his submissions or his finishes. 23 wins, 10 losses, 20 wins by knockout. So he has two losses in a row, which is maybe why they're putting him in against Weidman, saying you better win this one or you're out. Weidman, though, obviously has no path to coming back if he loses his next fight. I think he's just has to lay his gloves on the ground and call it a career.
Yeah, even if he would win, he didn't really win.
And if you want to do common opponent math, this is the perfect fight to do it because who beat up Chris Weidman in his last fight? Brad Tavares, and Bruno Silva knocked out Tavares in the first round of their fight in April of last year. So, yeah, he might be a step above the dude that just whooped Chris Weidman's ass. And that could be dangerous for him if he's really not made much changes. Call him blindado because he will make you blind. Will knock you out. Anyway, yeah, I got Silva in my parlay as well. I don't think you need to have a crystal ball to figure out Weedman's going to have a tough uphill fight this one time. Now, this next one is an interesting one. We have this guy, Nursultan Ruzaboev. And we talk about quick finisher. Ruzaboev has a lot of first round finishes, submissions, and knockouts. So, crazy thing is, let me get his record up here. His record is 33 and 8. 33 and 8. And guess what country he's from or region? One of the what, Tom?
One of the stands.
Yeah. Uzbekistan. Ruzaboev is just a straight killer. 20 submissions, 11 knockouts of his 33 wins. Two decisions, only two lowly decisions. And he has one UFC fight to his credit. Bruno Ferreira was his opponent. I have not heard of him. This was July of last year. Knocked him out in the first round. This guy has, let's count him, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 first round finishes in a row, dating back to his first loss, which was a unanimous decision back in 2019 to a guy named Boris. But he's basically only lost in the feeder leagues, and he has found something that allows him to get out of the fight before the first first minute. In one example, first minute against Luciano Contini back in 2022. So Kimura, he likes the Kimura and the arm bars. A lot of Kimura submissions, which is hard to do, but he's figured it out, obviously. And then if he doesn't get you by Kimura or armbar, he knocks you out. He's got a lot of first round knockouts within the first 2 minutes, most of them. Actually knocked somebody out by slam back in 2021 in the first round. So he is a great bet for under 1.5 rounds, which is what DraftKings is offering now. And the guy he's facing just doesn't have a lot of experience. 9 and 1. Even if he was just absolutely destroying everybody, and he's not, he's getting a lot of decisions. He got into the UFC on a guillotine choke in the first round, just 47 seconds into that fight. But he gets a lot of decisions otherwise against the bigger names, people with more experience. But Ruzaboev doesn't like decisions. He likes first round knockouts. And Dumas does have going for him that he has not been knocked out yet, but this could be the fight. He has been submitted in his one loss. So good luck with the the arm bars and the Kimuras. But I like Rusaboa in this one. Yeah, Joe. Money line bet. First round finish. Rusaboa. Let's Chris. Can't believe he's doing it again. Bill Algeo, I think, if you look at it on paper, looks like a very decent fight here. He does have 7 losses, but he's been doing pretty good lately. And 18-7 coming in against Kyle Nelson, who has really had a tough go of it lately. He's lost a few fights in his last 5. 15-5 coming in, 1 draw. Featherweights, and I think it's probably going to go the distance. But I like Bill Algeo to win that one. He's won 2 in a row against TJ Brown and Alexander Hernandez. So I like him to win that one. Money line bet. And if you're going to go with Nelson, I'd go with a TKO or a decision. But I don't mind. Expect something. We shall see. Chidi Njokuani and Reese McKee. Talk about a couple guys who are suited to hit the under. These guys are both marked on my scorecard already as winning by TKO. One of them is going to do it. Chidi's got a losing streak going. McKee, I like better than Njokuani, but I think typically you get knockout artists like this, they offer the one under 1.5. That's a clear bet. That's what I think. One of these guys is going to take the other's head off. I think it's going to be McKee. I think he's a little bit better for this matchup, but you never know. Next one I got is a 50-50 Landwehr versus Emmers. Nate Landwehr and Jamal Emmers. Experience versus experience this time at featherweight. Landwehr 17-5, Emmers 20-7. And this one's going to be probably, a technical fight, I think. It's going to go all 3 rounds. And maybe that's the bet to go the distance. So, but I got it as a 50-50. TKO or decision if you're going to pick Landwehr. Emmers, go with money line. He wins all kinds of ways. And then you've got the Rob Schneider lookalike, Verna Jandaroba. She is his sister from another mother, I guess. 19-3 at strawweight, fighting Lupita Godinez, 12-3 at strawweight. And I like that one to go the distance. I think Godinez is going to win by decision. Jandaroba is a pretty good grappler, but she doesn't have that finishing spirit, that killer instinct. I've seen her in a couple fights and put money on her, thinking she's gonna destroy her opponent, just based on her record. But it seems like at this high level, she just doesn't do enough to win. She doesn't figure out where to score those points, and Godinez seems to get it done a little bit better. So I'm going with her. But a good one is to go the distance, because then you don't have to pick. It's a decision. Doesn't matter either way it goes. And then we've got not Jorge Arce, but Julio Arce, featherweight fighter here. He's 18-6, fighting Herbert Burns. And that one I think is a lot more even than the books are giving it credit for. Burns is a heavy underdog, and I actually think he wins. But I don't have him in my big uh, parlay of the week here. But Burns, 11-4, and I think he wins by TKO or submission, or if you want to be safe, just money line. And if you're going to pick Arce, I'd go with money line, but I don't know, he's kind of had a few rough fights recently. I think Herbert Burns gets it done. He's a good underdog. Hopefully better than my last upset. We got destroyed. We will talk about that. Anyway, bazooka. A bazooka. Not the Italian bazooka. Uh, we talked about boxing before. Dennis Bazooka, he's fighting a guy named Connor Matthews. He's 7-1. Bazooka is 11-4, but don't let the good record fool you. He has had two chances to get into the UFC with a win and lost both of them, but they're bringing him back, which tells me that this is like a tune-up. Welcome to the UFC fight for Connor Matthews, and the Bazooka is not going to be firing live rounds. I think this is the opposite of the upset of the week, the steamroll of the week here. Connor, even though it's a featherweight fight, I like first round submission for Matthews, submission or decision. But Bazooka, if you're gonna bet on him to take advantage of the third time's the charm, I'd go TKO or decision for him. But yeah, I think Matthews is the safest bet of the night. Then we've got a rematch, interesting rematch here because the favorite is the guy who lost the first. You've got Anton Turkalj, who doesn't have a lot of fights, but he's a very tough character. He's fought some good names in the UFC at light heavyweight. He's 8-3. He's fighting Ibo Aslan, 12-1. They fought each other a long time ago, years ago. Not 10 years ago or anything, but a few years ago. So obviously each has changed. Ebo is an absolute killer as far as knockouts. He likes the first round knockouts as well. So it's heavy guys. And, they've got a better history, obviously. Believe Turkov's won the first one by submission. So this is a rematch, and I like Aslan by first round knockout or just TKO. Charles, if you're going to go with, he's got his number still to this day, and something psychological there. You got to go with the submission. He did it that way the first time, so submission or decision on that one. But I think Aslam gets his revenge. He's 12-1. That's his one loss. He's got to avenge it. So we'll see. Then we got Victoria Dudikova looking to stay undefeated. She's 8-0 at flyweight, fighting Melissa Gatto, who's 8-2-2. I like Dudikova on that one, just straight money line. You're gonna go Gatto, you go KO or sub, but what's my name? Dudikova staying undefeated. And we got Andrei Petrovsky, 10-2 at middleweight, fighting Jacob Malkoun, who's 7-3. And Petrovsky had a tough fight, his last one. He was going for the knockout, and he got knocked out himself. Um, so this is a tough one for him. Got first round knockout, but the guy who knocked him out is, I would say, no slouch. Tom would say no cheap date. Michael Pereira, just a destroyer. So I wouldn't put that too much against him. I think he learned a lot from that. And Jacob Malkoun is a very large step down, I believe, from that level of an opponent. And rarely does the UFC do that for their fighters. Say, okay, you lost a bad one to a tough guy. We're going to give you a lesser opponent this time. And I shouldn't say that about any fighter, but Jacob Malkoun obviously just has 10 fights. Petrovsky's got 10 wins. He's got a little bit of an edge on the experience. And I like Petrovsky. KO or decision. He goes for it. And he might have a little better defense this time. And then in the first one, we've got a little bit late for St. Patrick's Day, but an Irish guy, Colin Loughran, he is 8-1, fighting Angel Pacheco, 7-2. And this one, I think I'll often gets it done TKO or decision. If you're gonna go Pacheco, knockout or submission, but good match on paper. We'll see how it unfolds in the cage. I really like this card. I'm glad it's more accessible to everyone. The UFC, big UFC 300 cards, probably gonna cost $700. It's good. It's gonna be a good fight card to watch. I've already got a few bets in, and my favorite parlay so far that actually DraftKings likes enough to try to buy me out my $5 bet already before the card even starts. They want to pay me $3.33 to cash out, which is my highest cash out offer of the week so far out of 5 bets. So I'm gonna just lay it out for everybody. This is a 6 pick parlay. $5 pays 128 at current DraftKings odds, plus 24.74 if it wins. That's the odds. So I got Fiorot, Manon Fiorot on the money line. That's plus 154. And we go to the co-main event, Luke versus Buckley. I got that under 2.5 rounds. That's negative 166. Then we're gonna go down to Weidman. We're gonna say Silva takes care of Weidman money line. It's a pretty easy one. That's probably the lock of the week. Then we got Radzhabov Dumas under 1.5. That's negative 135. So a lot of negative stuff. And I number 238, I guess, because I got Algio money line, which is also negative 238 on DraftKings. And then the final one is Enji Kawani and McKee, the two knockout artists. I'm gonna do under 1.5 for that, which is negative 125, and that gives you plus 24.74 odds. I think that's according to DraftKings, they like it enough. They want to buy me out already, so I'm gonna do more straight money line bets this week, I think, too. Though some fights they're just begging for the under this week. All right, so let's get to boxing. We got a lot of boxing to talk about. We had some fights all over the world last week. On the results,
Not so much teleline.
not so much at all. But we start with Wednesday. Yes, yesterday. The IBO World Super Flyweight title was supposed to be given to the winner, but there was a draw. Well, down in Australia, down under. Taylor Robertson came in at 9-1, and Gloria Gallardo came in at 14-2-2. You just add another column to the third box on their scorecards. That's a tough one for a title too. That's very rare. On the undercard, Jalen Tate stayed undefeated with a split decision win over Alexander Espinoza at lightweight. Tate proves 15-0. Espinoza 18-2-1 now. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. We had our Jesus fight of the week yesterday. He lost. Jesus lost against Starling Castillo. Jesus Sriracha.
Well,
13-2-1
this is
now.
not Easter Sunday yet, so that makes sense.
Yes, he didn't fight on Sunday. Starling Castillo, he improves to 19-1-1, super lightweight. Rough one. And then I guess we go to Saturday. Yeah, let's think this is New Zealand. Dana Coolwell won a unanimous decision over Fernando Tagpuno Jr. for the IBO Intercontinental Featherweight title. Coolwell gets win number 13. 2 losses. Tagpuno falls to 7-2, and then we had another draw Split decision draw. Deanna Hobbs, 11-2, and Tywarna Campbell. What is it for the females? It's 10 draws. Okay, they gotta go to 3-minute fights, or 3-minute rounds. That one was for the WIBA World Super Featherweight title. Tywarna 4-2. Fought to a draw to featherweight. Good job. Craziness. And we had some fights across the pond. Let's find it. Over in Sheffield, the WBC Silver Super Lightweight title went to Dalton Smith, who remained undefeated. Goes to 16-0 with a fifth-round knockout over Jose Zepeda. Falls to 37-5, super lightweight. And we got Ishmael Davis also getting a win to stay undefeated, 13-0 for him, with a unanimous decision over Troy Williamson, who falls to 20-3 with one draw. And the WBO World Welterweight title for the females was up for grabs and ended in the fourth round. Sandy Ryan took it. She came in at 6-1-1 against 14-1-2 with Terry Harper at welterweight. And Sandy Ryan got it done. James Flint getting a unanimous decision win, proving to 14-1-2 against Campbell Hatton, who was undefeated until this fight. That was for a BBBFC Central America Super Lightweight title. Congrats to him. And WBCU Silver Flyweight title matchup went down in New Mexico last Saturday. Abraham R. Perez stayed undefeated, 10-0 now. With a unanimous decision over Fernando Diaz, who came in at 13-4-1. See what else we had last week. It's not it. It's huge on Friday. So the schedule upcoming. We got some on let's see. The Zone tonight, actually. The fight's going on.
Wow.
Vladimir Shishkin, 15-0, fighting some guy, Mike Guy. 12-7-1, that's super middleweight. Shojan Ergashev, that's super lightweight. 23-1, fighting Juan Cuartas, who's 17-4-1. And Juan Carrillo, 11-0, fighting Quentin Rankin, who's 21-8-2. Good stuff. And down in Mexico, we got one that's saying they're saying it's 2 stars. Number 7 and number 18 at featherweight in the world there. Magali Rodriguez, 23-7-4, fighting Yasmin Rivas, 40-12-1. It's a lot of experience between the two of those guys. I don't think that one's going to be televised. Then the big card is on ESPN Plus this week. I don't know if it's pay-per-view, but boy, this is a great card. Oscar Valdez, 31-2 against Liam Wilson, who's 13-2. We got Seniza Estrada, undefeated at 25-0, fighting Yocasta Valley, 30-2. Those are the two big top of the line fights in this action-packed fight card here. Valdez versus Wilson, that's for the WBO Interim World Super Featherweight title. And then we got, like, every title known to man on the line between Estrada and Valley. We got IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO World Minimum Weight titles. Minimum weight. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen a headline.
Since we'll not have a lot of controversy, middleweight, so it's maybe middleweight. Senior middleweight or welterweight. Or weight, think of each of the same as strawweight. Especially male weight class. Why would that be strawweight? Well, it's got to be minimal. I can't reach a thing stand.
Yeah. I could see us doing, if we were a comedy show, we could do a skit with, like,
Yeah.
who's on first with minimum weight? Oh, you're a fighter? What weight are you? Minimum weight. Oh, yeah, what weight is that? Minimum weight. It's the weight.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I've never seen somebody number one with all the titles in that weight, and also it being a headlining on a card like this. So I'm actually probably going to tune in for this one and watch some boxing for a change. We also got some good supporting bouts. We got Lindolfo Delgado undefeated, looking for win number 20 against Carlos Sanchez, 25-2 at super lightweight. And we got Raymond Muratalla undefeated as well, 19-0 as well. Fighting Zolasani Ndegeni is 31-4. Yeah, that's a good one at lightweight. And a DAZN card. No world beaters, no titles, but we got Elijah Pierce, 18-2, fighting Arthur Villanueva, 35-4-1 at super middleweight. This one's Atlanta. Haven Brady Jr., 11-0. Sounds like a freaking male model's name. Fighting Waldemar Carroll Arizaga, 8-0. So this somebody's always got to go. Number 95 is Haven. Number 389 is Valdemar. But they're both undefeated. And somebody's always going to go, I believe, on this one. Giovanni Marquez, 8-0, fighting Jason Velez, also on this card. 30-13 is Jason Velez, with a lot of his losses in his last six. He's got one draw. And then they're actually showing us two-star fight. The headliner for the BKFC fight in Albuquerque this Friday, tomorrow night. John Dodson and Dagoberto Aguero. John Dodson, I remember from MMA. He is very fast hands, and he does crazy dynamic stuff. And that from when I watched him in the cage, I have not actually watched a bare knuckle fight of his, but he's 3-0. They consider it boxing, I guess, so they put it on BoxRec. Fighting Dagoberto Aguero has just got the one win, but he's got some promise. It's going to be 5 rounds. And I might actually try to tune in for that one too, if I can watch it at the same time as the boxing. That's going to be a good one. I haven't really watched a lot of bare knuckle. I think I signed up for one of their first fights to watch it on the stream, and I've not watched a lot of it since. But I believe this is a pretty decent card they got coming up. And our former guest there that does the analysis, Sean Wheelock, he actually just had a birthday, so they've had to wish him a happy birthday over there on Facebook. Sure, he drank a lot of Mountain Dew. The Mountain Dew guy. Also, Saturday, we got not the Jesus fight of the week this week, but the Angel fight of the week for sure. Jose Angel Gabriel Rosa. 4 names, one of them's Jesus or Angel. Passes the test. Okay, he is 24-0. Fighting for, appropriately, the WBC Latina welterweight title, which is vacant. Fighting Marlon Aguas, who is 14-2. Jesus is going to stay undefeated this week. Okay, then we got a couple of obscure titles. Gaspar Fernandez, 6-1 against Pablo Ezequiel Corzo for the South American Super Middleweight title and the WBA Fedelatin Super Middleweight title. That's pretty much. Well, we got the Pulev brothers. I believe they're brothers. Maybe they're cousins. But I actually put the two of them in a little boxing parlay this week. It's going to be on DAZN. We got Tervel Pulev and Kubrat Pulev fighting on the very same card. Tervel is 18-1, fighting a guy named Raleigh Lambert Fogum. was 16-2-1 at cruiserweight. And Kubrat Pulev, which most of us know, 30-3, 30 wins, 3 losses. Obviously been to high places in the heavyweight division. He is fighting Ihor Shevadzuski, who is probably going to get blown away, even though he is 11-1. Kubrat Pulev still number 22 in the world at heavyweight. This guy Ihor is number 136. So I've got it dual Pulevs. I actually won a bet earlier this week with dual Wisniewskis in table tennis. I don't know if they're brothers, but there's 2 fucking guys with the exact same last name in table tennis. It's one of the easiest and quickest things to bet on late at night, middle of the day, whenever. And I got a rule now. If the guy's last name is Ski, it's like 75-25. He's going to win if it's the only Ski on the card. But I think they've gone against each other a few times. Wisniewski. That's it's crazy. Anyway, watch out for the skis. Gotta stay ahead of your skis. Wisniewski. Pulev and Pulev. It's a given. I mean, they're both favored. So that tells you something. Pulev and Pulev. We got some more stuff. We got the Canadian middleweight title on the line up there in Hamilton, Canada. Antonio Napolitano, 8-0-1, fighting Ryan Young, 15-5 at middleweight. And John Michael Bianco, 7-0 versus Mate Rudan, who's 6-0. So it's another somebody's always got to go fight at super middleweight. And let's see. Got more on Saturday. From Inglewood, we got a DAZN card for the WBA Super World Cruiserweight title. Gilberto Ramirez, former guest of ours, facing Arsan Goulamirian, 27-0. I like Zerdo, as they call him. Zerdo, 45-1 in this one. And Goulamirian just has not really fought too many high quality fighters, so I think this one's set up for Ramirez to win. He's headlining the fight card. It's for a cruiserweight title. I like him in that one. And then we got Santiago Dominguez, also coming in undefeated, 26-0, fighting Jose Luis Sanchez, 14-3-1 at welterweight. And looks like a good fight too. Don't know much about either guy. And then we actually posted a press release on this guy, Kareem Hackett, coming in at 12-0. Fighting not Roddy Piper, but Rowdy Legend Montgomery. How the heck do you end up with a name like that? We might have to look into his parents, see if they're at Woodstock. Rowdy Legend Montgomery. He is not such a legendary record though. 10-5 with 1 draw at light heavyweight. So I think Kareem Hackett can hack it, and he's going to do it. So we got Ricardo Rafael Sandoval as well on this card. 23-2, fighting a real tough fighter, Carlos Buitrago, who is 38-12 with 1 draw at flyweight. And then also worth mentioning, Frederick Lawson coming in at 30-4, fighting Alexis Roca, who is 23-2. That's not hit. Not hit by a long shot. Here's our Jesus fight of the week. Jesus undefeated. He's going to be on Fox Espanol. Anyway, Fox Espanol. Luis Lopez, 14-2-2, fighting Jesus Resendez, who is 8-0-1 at welterweight. Long Beach, California. And then the big fight card of the week, multiple titles on the line. is in Vegas, and it's the Australian coming to Vegas with a last-minute replacement. And actually, our buddy, former guest, Al Bernstein, did a big article for Ring Magazine that they sent our way to our main box, and was all about this fight and all the Australian guys that are coming out of the woodwork. Pretty good stuff. So I emailed his manager and said, we've had him on the show before. It's been too long, so we'd love to get him on again because he was like soliciting for interviews. But anyway, Tim Tszyu coming in at 24-0 and trying to get out of his father's shadow. Really. Actually, they don't even talk much of this.
I mean,
Yeah. So he's really trying to establish a name for himself. Sebastian Fundora is kind of in the same position, except he's the young guy now, and he hasn't really got to that level yet, but he is taking the risk that this is too much too soon, and he's going in against a guy who could easily ruin his day. We'll see what happens. Maybe he goes the distance and looks better than we think, but I think Tszyu takes care of business within the distance. I don't know. Tony, you may have some different analysis.
I agree with that. You know, Fundora is a fighter, but I mean, we got a lot, fighting range in his column. But I just don't think, he's got the versatility to hang in those. And I mean, every time Zeus fought, he's better. And so I think that, good fight early. And, Tim's going to start, closing momentum when he does. He's going to break them down. I think it's going to be, I'd say, maybe 8 rounds.
8 rounds.
Maybe 7 and 9.
Between 7 and 9. Well, I've actually got not a bet on that one because Tim Tszyu is just astronomically favored. I got the other co-main event: Rolando Romero and Isaac Cruz for the WBA World Super Lightweight title. And I've actually got this is my most questionable bet on the whole parlay, but I just kind of like the fact that Romero has a high knockout percentage, 15-1. And he's fighting a guy that doesn't get knocked out, but goes to decision a lot. For the WBA World Super Lightweight title here, Romero versus Cruz. Cruz 25-2-1 at Super Lightweight. Romero 15-1. So I've got Romero by knockout. Plus odds. That's my only plus odds on my whole parlay. And I also got Arislandi Lara on the same one. Just money line. He's 29-3-3. He's one of the only guys I actually saw fight in person. They're still fighting. I saw him at when I was living in Vegas, I should say, back in 2011. I saw him fight in a main event, a very controversial main event. There was a point taken for a low blow that actually was not a low blow, and I will never forget the Spanish photographer with his giant camera coming over and showing me. He actually had a little video of it, and he freeze framed it, and it was above the belt. And there was a point taken away, and Arislandi Lara, I believe, lost that fight. He should have won. Got robbed. Anyway, so he's fighting Michael Zarafa, who has 4 losses, 31 wins, and looks like a good matchup on paper. But I believe Lara has been in with the better opponent, so he should take care of it. Just killer after killer on this card. Title after title as well. Brian Mendoza, 22-3, number 5 at super welterweight, fighting Sergey Bohachuk, 23-1 at super welterweight, and number 30 in the world. That one's for the WBC interim world super welterweight title. And we got Julio Cesar, not Chavez, but Martinez, 20-3, number 13 in the world at flyweight, fighting Angelino Cordova, undefeated 18-0-1 for the WBC World Flyweight title. Crazy. And even beyond the titles, we got some good fights. Elijah Garcia, 16-0 against Tyrone Davis, 18-3-1 at middleweight. Got Mirko Coelho, 13-0 against Suleiman Sagawa, 16-3 with one draw at featherweight. All kinds of good stuff. And that's finally it. Till next week. Unless you want to talk about Tokyo fights. And speaking of boxing, here's a funny boxing story I wanted to get to this week. Ryan Garcia. He's got a big fight coming up, obviously. And he fights for Golden Boy. And so they actually, because of his posts online, I guess he's done some posts about aliens and conspiracies. They actually ordered a mental health evaluation. The New York State Athletic Commission wants him to undergo a mental health evaluation ahead of his April 20th fight with Devin Haney. I don't know. He says in response, go ahead.
I mean, any jurisdiction would see. Or,
It's got a real Big Brother feel to it, doesn't it? He says, "Is it not my constitutional right to have free speech? So because I'm tweeting what I'm tweeting, that's premises for a mental evaluation? That's curious." But yeah, well, the U.S. government has acknowledged aliens, so I don't know if that's too outlandish to be posting about. But I don't. You'd think it'd be for something else, but it is kind of a stretch to do that. But anyway, De La Hoya says nothing to worry about. He's in good spirits. He's working in the gym. And now these posts are not taking all of his time, so it's not really a big deal. But yeah, I still don't see him doing much against Haney, but time will tell there. Yeah.
I can see less action Amy right now. I can do his job. Full social media bullshit. And, he's I don't think it's called that I don't um, but he really got his name in like the little like Instagram. Like he would do where he would be, named run by and people that and knew about him before I did. They told me, see the kid, he's doing all these Instagram posts. He's like 10 years old, he's this and that. And they just showing him how much follow me all the time, He was thinking people that was really strong, maybe people in space, but in running, talking about his name, he was getting hit with so many counter right hands. Forget if he even gets knocked down, and then he got up and then he but I was thinking, man, he little hit me limited. And then the game really showed up. And, sometimes when you lose, like, sometimes you still got to pile it.
Right.
Going with the opponent gets to the guy's face, like, and like, you're going to do this, I'm going to do that to him. You're going to, and completely convince. Even for a three-ish last time, I did like implement.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. You and I have been on good call with my and he was ready to type fight with one time break. And the first thing he did was not let other kind of drinks his own pits. And, I'm gonna beat him like Pacquiao could, because I don't think Pacquiao would beat him. He pulled all that shit and trashing his opponent. First thing he did on that conference call, I'm never forget it. Tribute to Electric Way Bart and after Rigatti, which is his way to finish with standard each thing. And that was the first thing he did, and he did it in a very calm and safety manner. So I knew a lot of stuff with Mayweather, with Persona, with with Garcia. I don't see him doing it. Like, say something happened where, for argument's sake, say something happened to a member of the Devin Haney family. I could see Garcia being more of a guy who would be like, I'm going to bury you like you just buried so and so, instead of, hey, I know you're going through something right now. I, sympathize for the loss. Don't think I'm going to take it easy with it. That'd be like a classier way to do it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's great. Get me thanks for you.
Yeah.
Which been fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully we see some good fights either way.
Yeah,
There's also an article I came across in the MMA alerts on a website called the Hudson Reporter, HudsonReporter.com. And it chronicles the worst injuries in the UFC. Most shocking injuries, it's called. And of course, it's I guess it's timing of the whole thing because you have to rank Chris Weidman's broken leg as one of the absolute worst. Um, and the crazy thing is he was on the other end of it with Anderson Silva. It is one of the craziest coincidences in MMA history, I believe. Uh, Anderson Silva got his leg broken by Chris Weidman in almost the exact same fashion, except Chris Weidman, when it happened to him, was so shocked and so clueless as to what had actually just happened that he tried to take a step back on the broken leg. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen on live television. And I joke about it all the time, but I can't imagine the pain that must have been going through their friggin' bodies, both of them. But uh, geez, I called it the rubber chicken leg. It was bad. Just snap. Uh, I have not seen this one. They ranked this one up there pretty high. Corey Hill got a leg injury in a UFC fight for the troops. He also had a broken leg. This must have been before my big watching time. But I do remember this other one, Leslie Smith and Jessica I, cauliflower ear. I've had personal experience with that, so that's up there. It was actually stopped. The fight was stopped because there was so much blood coming out of her ear. It was actually cauliflower ear that burst, and I've actually had to get it taken out by a needle by a doctor. The blood in my ear from the cauliflower ear. So been there, done that. Then John Jones' toe injury, which I don't think was that bad. But, I remember seeing it sideways when he came up to be getting his hand raised. And the one I do remember, probably everybody who watched the UFC and seen all the highlights through history remembers is Frank Mir versus Tim Sylvia when he had his arm bar taken to the max and snapped his cranium.
Turn into a banana.
Yeah, and I've seen Tim Sylvia in person in Worcester, and it was at the tail end of his career, and he fought Pujanowski in the main event, the world's strongest man dude. And it's actually one of our most watched YouTube videos because I snuck a video through the cage of the whole fight, pretty much, or the good part of it. And boy, Tim Sylvia was really he was a tough guy when he is in his type of fight, but this was not his type of fight. Never forget him coming backstage with giant ice packs on his knee, both knees, like pitchers put on their arms after a fucking baseball game. And yeah, he was bumbling and stumbling, but he did all right. Just Puccinowski was in a little better shape. The other ones on here, eye poke incident in the Brown Mitrione fight. Matt Mitrione suffered actually a broken orbital bone. I do remember this one after repeated eye pokes from Travis Brown. That's an eye poke, all right. Broken orbital, jeez. And then a guy also fighting on this weekend's card, Vicente Luque, on the list for what he did to Mike Perry. And if you remember this fight, don't remember this fight. It's probably going to come back to you when you see the viral picture of Mike Perry's nose, badly broken, and he's doing the bare knuckle now. But oh, that was a bad fight for him. I do remember that one. And then, although it was the last second, one of the worst facial injuries. I do remember this one was bad. Was Overeem versus Rosenstruck. His lip was actually split right pretty deep by the punch that ended the fight, and he's pretty much a bloody mess. And then, of course, we have the hematomas. Um, I know they don't list this other guy's. Mark Hominick, I believe, had a pretty nasty one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was also the one that I mean, obviously, because it was more of a high level fight. Joanna Jedrzejczyk, she had the forehead from hell. Looked like a fucking skeleton zombie type woman that came back to life. I don't know. This looked so weird in that fight, but yeah, massive forehead hematoma. Craziness. So that's a guy named Kevin Canales put that article together. Surprised Hominick didn't make the list, but that would be my only honorary mention. It's been rough. It's been a rough road for these UFC fighters, and I honestly, hope there's some kind of a retirement package that ends up in place for them. They all get taken care of down the road here, because this lawsuit didn't really solve much as far as the restrictive contracts and all that other bullshit. But maybe they learned a lesson. Maybe they'll do things differently. We don't know. But you know, Conor McGregor is a perfect example of the guy that came in there, did a little fighting, and now he's bigger than them. You know, so I could, in some ways, understand from his case that as a matter of doing business, you can't give too much to the fighters, or else they become bigger than you. And Conor McGregor's actually in a real big movie now they're promoting. And he claims that this fight with Michael Chandler is going to be happening this year now. Now that that's all over, he'll have time to go back and do the gym stuff and get ready for it. But I hear he's actually already negotiating for a fourth Nate Diaz fight, which would be tough because Diaz is not contracted by the UFC. Speaking of contracts. Uh, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but he's really fighting for it. Uh, but you got to get away from get through Michael Chandler first. I mean, we'll see. But I hear from another long time ago former guest of ours, Tommy Rainone, that the movie, yeah, buddy is a loaded word there. But Tommy Rainone watched the movie Roadhouse, the remake, and I mean, anytime you're trying to outdo Patrick Swayze, you've got a tough task ahead
Yeah.
of you. So I don't think anybody was expecting a better performance, but yeah, apparently both of them sucked. Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor. Their acting was horrible. So it might be one of the reasons why it ended up not being in theaters or anything. It went straight to Prime Video. So it comes with a do not recommend stamp on it from Tommy Raynone, otherwise known as the Lee Harvey Oswald lookalike. Tommy posts his bets sometimes. He actually does some pretty smart bets, and he does post a lot of commentary about stuff like Tyson versus Jake Paul, all that stuff. Oh, before I forget, I did see that Teddy Atlas is on the same wavelength. Another former guest of ours. I had him on in a tough interview I got because I gave him my business card out in Vegas at an event on the pool deck of the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and he called me. He kept calling me until we got that interview done. But anyway, Teddy Atlas on his podcast now has said about the Jake Paul fight that he is going to be surprised if it doesn't have a planned ending like WWE. So we are on the same wavelength there. That it's going to be a little bit fixed. Uh, but he thinks Jake Paul will be in a lot of trouble if he does not take things seriously. And even if there is an agreement, Mike may just go off script and take him out. He might not respect any agreement. So I thought that was interesting, you know. But Mike Tyson's just so nice these days. Just, I saw a video. I was watching the Mike Tyson Mysteries show the other day, and my phone must have been listening or something because up popped a video of him fucking around with Neil McDonald, and Mike was trying to make him say the N word. Or Norm McDonald. Norm wouldn't say it, and Mike was like pawing at him, like smacking him a little bit. He was getting nervous. And then Mike had to tell him, "Oh, I'm just playing, I'm just playing." But, that's the extent of his aggressiveness. He's just fucking with you. So I don't see it. I don't really see it being like a absolute blowout either way. I think it's just going to be a pitter patter dance around thing, like the Roy Jones Jr. fight kind of was. If anything, I think it's going to be like a phantom punch that ends. Who knows if it goes to a TKO? But yeah, I like that Jake Paul would actually like take a dive to make Mike Tyson look better in this one, rather than Jake Paul gets the win because Mike Tyson needs the money and would sign anything at this point. But Tyson does take offense to those allegations that he's just doing it for the money. So who knows? He does look good. He's winning. Right? Well, we'll find out when it happens. All right. Well, we've got power this week. I had a big bad storm, dropped a tree right next to my house last week, so that's why we didn't have the show. But best of luck, everybody, if you're betting on these fights this weekend, and go Red Sox. I don't know what the score is right now, but opening day, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Till
All
next time.
right.
Thanks for stopping by.